level. So that tells you something about how Kaya was conquered. Now, today here we're talking about the fall of Shila, right? Mm-hmm. And how did Shila fall? Well, you get the resurrection of these other two kingdoms. You get the later Pekje, which was called Hubekje, and you get later Koguryo, which is called what? Hugoguryo. And altogether this period of the later three kingdoms is called the Hu Samguk Shide, right? The later three kingdoms period. Well, Hugoguryo drops the Hu and the Gu, and what's left? Koryo. That becomes Koryo. And remember I started to tell you about the good, bad, and the ugly?
Yeah.
The good was Wanggon. Wanggon was the founder of the Koryo dynasty. And why was he good? Well, he was successful, and he gets to write the history, and he writes himself up as good, and he writes all these wonderful things that they did that were good. Who's the bad guy? Kyunghwan, the general from Pekje, who comes in and sacks Shila, and is generally a bad dude because he's an enemy of Koryo as well. Who is the ugly? The good, bad, and the ugly. This title, by the way, comes from a book, or an article written by a guy by the name of Cameron Hurst, who's teaching at UPenn. And Cameron Hurst talks about, he writes this article about the good, bad, and the ugly, because in the semicolon, the personalities in the founding of the Koryo dynasty, okay? And the personalities are the good guy, the winner. The bad guy is the Pekje loser. But who's the ugly guy? Well, let me tell you the story of the ugly. The ugly was a guy by the name of Gung Ye. And Gung Ye was the founder of the Hu Koguryo kingdom, actually the founder of Koryo. And he was a king, but he was a rough, mean, rotten guy. He had several wives, and one of his wives, he got mad at her, and he killed her. How? He stuck a red-hot poker in her
heart.
Womb. Yeah. Now, you can't get any uglier than that, right? That's a pretty ugly guy. And he was such a brute that the people went to Wanggon and said, Wanggon, won't you throw over Gung Ye and become our king? But Wanggon is loyal, right? Loyalty, right? Confucian value, loyalty. No, I have to be loyal to my king. And then Gung Ye goes and does something else outrageous. And so the people rise up and come to Wanggon and say, Wanggon, you've got to replace Gung Ye. He's such an evil ruler. He can't have the mandate of heaven. You've got to replace him. And what does Wanggon say? Second time, no, I have to be loyal. Then the third time, Gung Ye does something outrageous, and the people come to Wanggon and say, you've got to rise up and replace Gung Ye. And Wanggon says, well, golly, if it's the will of the people, I guess we better do it. And so he comes in and he kills the king, Gung Ye, and takes over for himself.
Is it Gung or Gung Ye?
Gung.
Like palace?
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Wanggon. Wang means king, and Gon means to establish. So he's the established king. Gon.
Oh yeah, but they all have like different. There's like in history like.
Yeah. Okay, now I told the story. I told the story as if I believe it. I told the story as if it's straight out of the history book, right? Do you believe that story?
No.
Is it a little bit too polishy, nicey for you?
They were twins.
I don't know.
Do you think that after all is said and done, Wanggon doctored up the story so the incident of him killing his own king does not look so rebellious, does not look so traitorous?
So
if
American
you kill your
Revolution.
king, you've got to have a dang good reason for doing it. So he builds all this story. And did Wanggon really kill his wife by stabbing her with a red-hot poker?
Probably not.
No.
Could happen.
He probably strangled her.
There's just as good a chance that Wanggon did something like that, because Wanggon had lots of wives. Every time he'd conquer some territory, he'd cement the relationship with that local leader by taking one of his daughters or sisters as his wife. He had 20-some wives. And there could have been just as well that he did that, and he has the history written. You win, you get to write the history. Okay? So that's the story of the good, the bad, and the ugly, the personalities in the founding of the Koryo dynasty, but a little bit of suspicion about how this dynastic history was written. Yeah. Married an E who moved into this village. And so this village represents Changakhanda. What does Changakhanda mean?
Go to woman's house.
Go to woman's house to get married.
That's
And
what I said.
when you say get married, in Korean, how do you say get married in Korean?
결혼하다.
How else do you say it?
나랑 결혼해줄래?
How else?
중매.
I'm not saying how do you say let's get married. How do you say get married?
중매.
Let's get married. Just get married. To get married.
결혼하다.
How else do you say it?
중매하다.
Jungme is to arrange a marriage.
아이씨, 진짜.
There you go. What is it to go to someone's house?
실랑한다.
When a girl gets married, when a girl gets married, she goes 시집 가다. Okay. And when she's living at that place, she's at the shijip, and she has shijip sanghwa. And a lot of this poetry, she's talking about some of those kinds of things, traditional life things. But somehow, okay, so if the girl goes to the boy's house to get married, what happens to the boy? He stays at home, right? And he just 결혼한다. But in the language, there's this archaic form of 장가간다, which means the boy goes to the girl's house. And that's the archaic form that died out
When Confucianism came to Korea.
when Confucianism became strong in Korea. Confucianism came to Korea in the Shilla period.
Beginning of the Chosun Dynasty.
But the middle of the Chosun dynasty, the late 17th century, Maria.
Same thing.
여보세요. The late 17th century is when you saw daughters lose their inheritance rights.
Okay, fingers.
And that's when you no longer 장가가다, because why would you 장가가 when you go marry the girl and she ain't got no money? Right? So this begins, the shijip kada is the only form that's acceptable, okay? So this house and this village, for all intents and purposes, show the last of that phase, the last hurrah for going to move with the girl's house. And these people did it in royal fashion. The Son family moved in, have a great success. The Yi family moved in and have a great success. And then from that time on, somewhere in the 16th and 17th century, the boys start to stay home. And once it settled in that this was the boys' village, this became the famous village of the Son and the Yi family from here. Okay.
So wait,
Yi Son.
where'd the Ur come in?
The Yu, they had
were
only one
here.
daughter, so they disappear. Okay. The Yu family, not the Yu family, the Yu family.
I was just thinking you were go.
No, not Yurgo, Yu. Okay, you know people named Yu?
Yep.
Yu Ho-sung.
Yeah. Yeah.
성출유.
Okay, so that's what this house represents. And you see here, what do you see on the hill?
The shrine.
The shrine. You've learned to recognize shrines by now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Sadang. There are only 2 authorized Sadang in this village, but there are 3 additional unauthorized Sadang. One was built just fairly recently down here. I don't know if you saw it, but when we came across it, you could see one over there. And there's another one out toward the entrance of the village. There's another one over there. Those are all unauthorized Sadang. How would they be authorized or not authorized?
The king having the written signboard.
Yeah. Well, it's not the signboard for the Sadang. That's for the So one. But the king would authorize that the person here be called a Pulchanjiwi. We is for Wipe, meaning the spirit tablet. Pulchan means immovable, doesn't move. Now what that means is in a normal home, in a normal situation, you have how many ancestors at your home?
4.
4. And what happens when the next guy dies?
You
This one
move the
goes is
last
buried. Now this guy's really famous though, and the king says it's okay, he can stay. And that's what's happened here. This is, the 5 and above. At the E family, our friend that we just saw is the 17th generation. So in his Sadang, there's going to be his father, grandfather, both of whom I knew, his great-grandfather, and his great-great-grandfather. And when he dies, the great-great-grandfather gets the boot. So there'll be those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to 17, there are 13 intervening generations that are a gap there. And then it goes back to the main ancestor.
When they retire that 4th person, like when the next person dies, you know those burial mounds you see on the sides of the hills and everything with the monuments? They put that? Is that what they do, or what do they do with them? Is
Well,
there like any
the
kind
body is already buried in the mound on the hill.
Oh, okay.
But when the tablet becomes the 5th tablet, the 5th wheel on the cart, then they bury the tablet with the body.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So they
but
go
the
down.
body's already buried there.
And they already has like the little mound and then the monument
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah. Okay, So that's the significance of this place. This is the other major family. The shape of the house, people like to talk about it. We can't, if you're an architect, you can't go into the front and look in the house the way we used to. But it's a straight line and then a square, absolute square. And the outer part, this corner out here, is the men's quarters, and the inner part is all the women's quarters.
Can you tell us again about the prophecy?
Yeah, the prophecy was there'd be 3 great scholars born in that room right there.
And 2 have been born.
And 2 have been born.
So why don't they just birth someone else?
They do.
Everybody wants to have their babies here.
The village women all arrange to have their births here whenever they can. Traditionally, I don't know if they still do it anymore, but it used to be if somebody's having a baby, they'd arrange for auntie
So if
whoever
my wife's
to take care of
pregnant
them
and
here.
I come here,
You'd have a good chance that child would be a great scholar, yes.
But she doesn't like Korea, so she won't come.
Already
Just
over
whoever ends
Holland.
up the greatest.
Yeah, well, whoever ends up with Fuchan Jiwi and a Sadang, the king says, oh, this man's a great scholar. And each of these great scholars have a Sowan dedicated to them. Now you see the connection between the Sowan and Sadang? See, if you have a Sowan that's put together by your disciples, your family also has a Sadang for the family.
But there's no king.
The king's a queen.
That's the problem today. There's no king, so we'd have to get Pakunet to authorize it.
The king's a
Or
queen.
just get around.
Or do something. Yeah. See, that's the problem. You can't do it officially these days. That's why these 3 other Sadang have cropped up in here, because nobody's going to stop them. You know?
Yeah.
And if you've got the money and you want to build a Sadang, who's going to stop them?
How dare they modernize
Nobody
Korea?
else can have a
Like
hero
that.
estate.
How dare they modernize
Aw,
Confucianism
sad.
like that?
I'm going to build one.
Okay?
This
Yep.
is not just anyone's Confucius.
This Confucian Academy, in other words, this Sowan, 이 Sowan은 회제 이원적 의 학문과 독행을 기리고자 세웠다. Okay, this Confucian Academy was built to honor 이 onjuk, also known as Heje Sensei. That's our hero. That's the man for whom our tombstone is the 17th generation descendant. You know Eonjuk? Have you heard that name before?
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the men you met one of the 18 you met in the Sungyumguan. He's one of the 18. Okay, so he's of that caliber. Speaking of which, when we met the Tokchun Sowan and talking about Namyang and what a great scholar he was.